Fáilte, welcome to the Village Oak Tree. I'm your host, Terrance Ó Domhnaill. Thank you for joining me again this week. I'm going to keep this pretty general this week. As always, there are plenty of news stories from around the world to choose from, but I'm finding most of them are saying the same thing. We know more about the plight of the U.S. military sailors aboard their ships now, thanks to some good reporting, something I've known for decades from when I served. Join me as I air my thoughts about ICE's new toy and bring up some facts about the much vaunted U.S. Navy they're not telling anyone. So gather around, sit you down somewhere comfortable for a bit, to try to put all this together from news stories I've read and listened to in the last week or more. So, as I said, I got a couple of topics to talk about today. One of the biggest stories in the U.S. over the last week has been this report of ICE spending $20 million for some electric shock gloves for its field agents. I watched a couple of the videos circulating around, and they are scary toys. When one touch on the arm of a very healthy, robust retired Navy SEAL put him to his knees, that made me pay attention more. Can you imagine what something like this in the hands of the current crop of field agents ICE has running around will do? We already know what they're doing when they have guns they can use, with no repercussions other than a quick transfer to get those murderous agents out of sight and out of mind. Or so they hope anyway. Imagine one of these cowboy agents using these gloves on some slightly older immigrant or someone with a health issue and killing them with these so-called non-lethal force tools. If one of these gloves can put down a very healthy male, older men and women and maybe even children stand little chance. The body count is sure to go up exponentially once these gloves are fully deployed across the country. The worst part is the Trump government, given their recent history, will do everything they can to hide any deaths caused by these new gloves. The only way to stop them is to film them and let the world know what they're doing. But now that comes with an added risk. In one of the videos, the poster stated that the gloves only work when in direct contact with bare skin. That's true. And for anyone who wants to risk being manhandled by someone with one of these gloves on, maybe dressed in some non-conductive material, I think it won't sink in until a few protesters get zapped by these gloves for people to wake up and protect themselves accordingly. Most people have to learn things the hard way, I found. Maybe create some clothes with some ground wires embedded in the seams. But it goes back to what I said a couple of minutes ago. If you're an immigrant and being picked up by ICE, the last thing you're going to be worried about is one of these black and tan thugs zapping you to the ground, is whether you're wearing non-conductive pants, shirt, or gloves. Most likely they won't be. So how many more people are going to die over their immigration status now? Better yet, how many people will be misidentified and possibly severely injured or killed by these gloves? We all know about the man in Houston and the young man in Bedford, Maine, who were killed because they were misidentified by ICE's AI database. They were shot. But now, ICE will have this new toy to play with, and you can bet there will be even more news stories soon about these untrained thugs misusing them and permanently injuring and killing people. Let's talk about ICE basic training for a minute, or lack thereof. Remember when the news media made hay about the 47-day basic training course these new ICE recruits are required to attend? I want to give everyone a real world comparison to other well-known basic training courses that recruits for other institutions go through. First, let's dissect just how long 47 days is. Let's do a little math. Very basic stuff. 47 days is only 6 weeks and 6 days long. If you compare that to military basic training, new military recruits go through an initial 13 weeks of basic training. That includes a lot of physical training, weapons training, basic battlefield medical training, and some classroom instructions on the rules of war, UCMJ, and some basic civics lessons as it pertains to their new jobs as soldiers. And there's some other things in there too. Then we compare that with FBI and municipal police training, or police academies as they're called in a lot of places. For example, the New York City Police Academy, what I call basic training, is 6 months worth of academic instruction, tactical and physical training, weapons training, driver training, and a lot of additional training on other things related to their new jobs. Then, after graduating from the academy, they ride along as rookies for 2 years until their NCOs are confident they have enough field experience to work on their own, with a partner usually. The same for any newly graduated recruits from military basic training. They are sent to their first duty assignment after graduating or not from a technical school and put are put under the close supervision of NCO who continues their training in the field. Not so these cowboys who graduate from ICE basic training. After 7 weeks, they're sent out to the field to sink or swim with the sharks, with disastrous results as we've seen since they invaded Los Angeles last year. And these same untrained cowboys are going to be allowed to use potentially lethal electric shock gloves on anyone they feel like, from undocumented migrants, legal immigrants, misidentified people, citizens included, and protesters who think they might be impeding them. And I put that in quotes. I read a news story about how ICE misidentified a native-born white American just getting off an airplane at a Georgia airport near Atlanta because he looked like some Englishman who was supposed to be in the U.S. illegally. Instead of courteously asking him for his identification, because they were looking for somebody who fit his description, they roughly grabbed him as he exited the TSA checkpoint, handcuffed him, and then checked his ID. Oops, we got the wrong guy, unquote. They took the handcuffs off without an apology for misidentifying him, and that was that. Now imagine someone else exiting from an airplane in a similar situation, and instead of being manhandled and put in cuffs, they just zap them with one of these gloves, handcuff them while they're lying on the ground or floor, and then check their ID, only to find out they had the wrong person. That's what's coming for the people of the United States. All because Trump and Miller want to terrorize the country and deport everyone who even remotely looks like an immigrant. And what that means is pretty broad. So this includes Caucasians, as I just talked about in my real-life example. As far as Trump and company are concerned, skin color has little to do with any favorable treatment by ICE. Their AI identification database is severely flawed, in that it constantly makes mistakes on identifying the features of illegal immigrants they're after in their targeted enforcement. We've seen that over and over in the last year and a half, with a lot more to come. Trump is starting to get desperate as the walls are closing in. He's watching these primary elections across the country, and the handwriting is on the wall. The Democrats are probably going to take over the House of Representatives for sure, and very likely the Senate as well. If that happens, it's bye-bye, Donald Trump. His stupid agendas will mostly be shut down next year. Then Trump will spend his last 2 years in office defending himself from the new Congress, who, now full of vengeful Democrats, will come after him and the MAGA Republicans with everything they can fire at them. That will be Trump's legacy, not the ballroom, the arch, his name on the Kennedy Center, and any other fantasy he has. Speaking of historical legacies, that's another historical legacy that will stick with Trump far into the future, long after he's dead and buried. Maybe next to his ex-wife at that golf course I heard about. But anyway, I digress. What I'm talking about is his disgraceful war with Iran. He will go down in the annals of history, along with his buddy George W. Bush, as one of the worst presidents in American history. I read yesterday morning that when Georgie Boy knew he was finished by December of 2008, his approval ratings were at 19%. Trump is heading for that benchmark more and more every week now. As a former U.S. military service member, I've been well aware of how bad the logistics situations have been for the U.S. military for decades. I've talked about news stories for the last couple of years about the bad maintenance and repair issues regarding the ships in the U.S. Navy many times here. I found another story that is now making its way through the news media about the USS Bentfield going hot and dark in the South China Sea, another casualty of the repair and maintenance logistics plaguing the Navy for decades. So I'm going to pull up the story heading here. And I got this one from RT News a day or so before the Americans got a hold of it. This time, the crew endured near life-threatening conditions on a broken-down destroyer, drifting without power for days until they could be towed to a safe port. most likely to Yokosuka, Japan, where the bulk of the U.S. Pacific Fleet is headquartered. There is an extensive repair facility there, but with all the trouble the U.S. military has had with procuring replacement parts for their aging ships, the Benfold likely set sail on a patrol needing much needed repairs, like so many other forward deployed ships through the years, and that practice caught up with another American ship once again. Normally, this wouldn't make it to mainstream news. You'd have to read about it in the Navy Times. But with all the news about the Abraham Lincoln, this now becomes front page news across the world. The Navy is under tight scrutiny by the news media right now. So any ship casualties, whether it's major ship breakdowns or personnel casualties, will garner a lot of attention. And the Navy can ill afford the attention. For years, the Americans have been gaslighting the world into thinking they have the greatest Navy, and they can protect their foreign allies anywhere in the world. Trump's ill-conceived war with Iran has exposed all those weaknesses, and the world has taken notice. Alliances are shifting everywhere, and it doesn't help that Trump is exasperating that weakness with all his bumbling around, like a toddler in a toy shop or a senile old man, with no one to make him settle down. Kind of like having a very rich uncle with severe dementia that refuses to go to a memory care unit. Instead, he fights and insists there's nothing wrong with him, while he abuses the people around him and breaks things. A lot of us know someone like this. Well, now we have that uncle in charge of the country with the most dangerous military in the world. I said last week that the Lincoln probably isn't the only Navy ship with logistic problems, and now we see for ourselves. Those destroyers out there with that carrier group are all probably in the same condition as that carrier, but they're not as clickbait newsworthy as an aircraft carrier. Does anyone remember the news stories of that other aircraft carrier from last year that also had supply and morale problems? They had to come off the line in transit to Greece for emergency repairs for a laundry room fire that got away from the crew damage control parties. Well, here we go again. Another aircraft carrier taken off the line because of major repair issues that couldn't be managed at sea while under modified general quarters conditions. Not to mention the serious lack of resupply of the basics for the large crew. You can't send enough food and hygiene products for 5,000 sailors and Marines by plane fast enough to an aircraft carrier in a war zone to replenish what they consume. That has to be done at a safe port somewhere, and, as the news media has pointed out, Iran destroyed all the resupply bases in and around the Persian Gulf, and that carrier group can't just up and leave for the nearest resupply point a couple of thousand miles away, which is Diego Garcia, which doesn't have a deep water lagoon capable of handling an aircraft carrier. The destroyers, no problem. But carrier, sorry, no can do. I was stationed there for a year during Desert Storm, so I know. Even if the lagoon wasn't deep enough, it's not big enough for a carrier to turn around in. And running cargo boats out past the lagoon entrance to resupply the vast amount of food and other basics, not to mention things like ammunition and repair parts, would take weeks to accomplish. So no, the only way for the Abraham Lincoln to resupply and have some much needed repairs done is to be relieved on station by another aircraft carrier, which is happening right now. The only aircraft carrier in the Pacific Fleet, home ported out of Yokosuka, Japan, is now on its way to replace the Lincoln, the USS George Washington. The Lincoln will limp home to San Diego for much needed reset, rest, and refit, which is likely to take several months. Like its predecessor, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is now in San Diego, California, getting ready to deploy again. You see the pattern yet? The United States says it has 11 aircraft carriers, one of which is scheduled for decommissioning next year, is only used for training now. So the U.S. only really has 10 aircraft carriers total, one of which we know will be on station in the Arabian Gulf in a week or so. Where are the other 5? One of them, George H.W. Bush, is on station in the Arabian Gulf along with the soon-to-be relieved Lincoln. USS Carl Vinson is on its way from San Diego to the Middle East, currently resupplying in Guam. There will be 3 aircraft carriers in the Middle East op area once they all get on station shortly. So out of 11 aircraft carriers in the fleet, 3 of them are stateside undergoing major repairs or are in training getting ready to deploy. That's the Theodore Roosevelt, They're scheduled to deploy again in September after only being home for less than a year. Do the math. By this fall, there will be 3 carriers stateside for repairs and 4 in the Middle East, with 1 used for trading ahead of its scheduled decommissioning in 2027. That leaves 2, which, if you ask the right questions, tells you that the 2 missing aircraft carriers aren't commissioned yet. They're still being built. So, in effect, every available working aircraft carrier the U.S. Navy has is being deployed to the Middle East right now, leaving the rest of the world we're supposed to be protecting without any protection. No wonder the South Koreans are nervous. So are the Japanese, too, I bet. Since Trump has dissed all the American allies in Europe, there is no one to help anymore. The Australians don't have any assets to spare, nor will the Europeans do anything to help with Trump and Israel's war. They started it, they can finish it, or not. They're more concerned with trying to save what's left of their economies. But that's a story for another day. The United States, under Trump and his inept mafia associates, have put the Pentagon in a precarious position around the world now. You know the old schoolyard story. For every school bully, there's always another one hiding around the corner waiting for the bully to get taken out. For decades, the United States has been that bully. Now Trump has exposed its weaknesses. It probably won't be too long before someone tries to poke the bubble by invading someone the U.S. is supposed to be protecting to see what happens. If I had to make a guess, I would say North Korea rolling across the demilitarized zone as soon as they think the Americans are nothing but a shadow army at Camp Humphreys. Without much of a navy to back them up, the U.S. and South Korean soldiers would be overwhelmed by North Korean soldiers quickly. You can bet the Pentagon generals are already planning for this, or I should say, updating their calculations and intelligence, now that the only aircraft carrier in the East Asia op area is leaving for the Middle East with no replacement coming soon, at least not for a couple of months. They must be sweating bullets trying to move additional ground-based assets to the region to bolster what little they have left, especially after Trump transferred defensive missile batteries to the Middle East this year. Sucks to be them. None of what I'm telling you will make it to the mainstream news media because the Pentagon and the White House don't want the general public to know any of this. Again, if you live near a military base, you can find some of this in the Navy, Army, Air Force, or Marine Times newspapers. I looked all this up using a secure browser and its weak AI tool. If I can find it, so can you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't let Trump intimidate you. I also know that not a lot of people will listen or read this, and that works to the government's advantage. They don't want anyone to know about all this. So for those who do find this, whether it's an audio podcast around the world, Substack.com, YouTube, or Medium.com, share with everyone you can. The more people who know what the government is hiding from us, the more we can stand up to them and say no. That's the only way we can defeat these crooks and take our country back. More of us need to be educated about what's going on so we can say no more in force. That's the goal, to say no loud enough for the people in Congress to hear us. Writing letters and emails to our elected officials won't get anyone very far. They're too easily ignored. And anyone who's ever received an annoying form letter back from a congressional office knows what I'm talking about. That just means we're not making enough noise. Get out there. Make a lot of noise. Demand answers about why we have to send all of our operational aircraft carriers to the Middle East, leaving our longtime allies in Asia vulnerable. We need answers about why, for the supposedly richest country in the world, our sailors and soldiers are living on short rations while forward deployed to a war zone. If we have all this money in our overbloated defense budget, where's the beef? It's time for my break. When I return, I've got a story to brighten your day. It's a cute story I recorded back in January 2024. So bear with me as I'm still working on some of the media background for audio files. Consider me still in training as a media editor. I want to take this time to tell you about my book and explain how you can get one to read. In 2031, the U.S. has fallen into a Christian theocracy. Millions are in camps or deported. The economy has collapsed. Democracy is just a memory. Dr. James, a Pakistani-American doctor on the run, is practicing medicine illegally with a bounty on his head. In this first story of the series, he meets an old friend, rekindling a romance as they escape across upper New England ahead of the authorities. Full of romance, drama, and action-adventure for all ages. Powerful vision of democracy's collapse and one man's fight for family, faith, and a future worth living. A new, very possible future begins in Book 1, Fugitives in the New United States. The rescue mission continues in Book 2, The Camps, which is in progress and hopefully ready by early next year. This is a story for the times we now live in, and you can get a copy through one of the many options I have available on my online store at crownofbeha.com. I sell copies directly from the store, which ship out as soon as the order comes in, or with links to online retailers such as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Ingram Spark, if you're okay with print to order. There are also many ebook distributors across the world where this book is sold as well. So go find yourself a copy and order one today. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Sláinte. All right, welcome back. So as I said, I'm going to stick an old story in here and let you listen to it. There's a little bit of sound effects with them as I recorded back in the day. I'll be back on the other side. My next story is entitled The Lord of Gluttony, What Happens When a Summoning Goes Wrong and the Demon You Never Knew Existed Emerges from the Beyond, by Violet Lively. And she published this in a Kraken Lore. My existence is nothing more than a deep slumber. For as long as time, I am tossing and turning in darkness for a whole 2,628 minutes. As I roll in the darkness, a voice calls to me. It's some odd language I don't recognize at first, but is calling for my essence, my very demonic, very evil, and very scary being. A human voice, delicate, feminine, delicious. It's a summoning. I grin as the words gain meaning. Was this my dream coming true? Will I be able to eat as much as I want? Taste all the deliciousness the world can offer? Or maybe just scare some human? That would be fun too, although I don't want to miss out on the cakes. I go and peek, because I had no idea how a demon should act properly when summoned. For all 2,629 minutes I was asleep, but now it's time for me to be wakened. Some oddly dark pentagram with all kinds of organs laid before the woman on silver plates. Dark candles are lit all over the room, and I even spot a cat skull among the objects on the coffee table. Why would anyone summon me with these? Disgusting. Just disgusting. Then how am I here? I turn, still invisible to the human, and read the runes. There it is. A summoning spell, locking me inside its borders. A tight little circle, carefully crafted runes. Lord, that's me. I'm a lord. Of what? I squint, trying to read the smudged symbol, and then chuckle when I get it. The human tried to write the Lord of Glum, but instead she summoned me, the Lord of Gluttony. Bad for her. Oh, my eyes go wide as I spot her next mistake. She wanted to summon Lord Azraxel. Bad news. Very bad news. He is a scary and ancient demon. A shiver vibrates my wings as I think of him. She's lucky she misspelled it and got me instead, Arizal. But where is my offering? All these mistakes wouldn't be enough if there wasn't an offering just for me. Cat skull, chicken liver, pig heart, some other gooey stuff. But where is it? Where's my treat? A wide smile stretches on my lips as I spot it, and I run my tongue over my razor-sharp teeth. Yummy! A piece of whipped cream stuck on the hilt of a ceremonial knife. I leap, my wings opening to fly me to my target. The chanting stops, and I freeze mid-air, my tiny wings doing the best job to keep me still. I look at the woman to see if I can lick the whipped cream before she sends me back. I give up, she stands, taking the fancy knife with her. This shit isn't working. Narrowing my eyes, I land on top of a candle, careful not to touch any of that gross thing all around. I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Just like that, she cleans up. Like for real. I jump around in circles as I watch her moves. First the offerings are gone. Then she puts away the silver plates and the odd cloth with weird demonic symbols. She puts out the candles, shivering slightly as her hand slides through my evilness. Is she stupid? I'm still here, summoned in all my glory, even if she can't see me. I, the Lord of Gluttony, am here, ready to take on the world. Just those pesky runes. Then she wipes them away, using a wet sponge. Is she really doing that? I tilt my head and watch her.
a human female walking around and muttering some things. She's about to leave the room, leaving me here. How could she? Before she closes the door, I fly after her. No mortal can leave me like this. Not without giving me my treat. I made my way out from the deepest of darkness for the first time in my 2,628 minutes of existence, so I need my price. I halt in the other room. Shiny white and metal surfaces cover everything, with the most delicious aroma lingering in the air. Sweet sugar, honey, chocolate, fruits of all kinds, freshly baked sponge cake. My mouth waters, and I swallow as my lips stretch into an ear-to-ear grin. She turns on some earthly device, and a man's voice speaks from it.
More music.
I jump back and hiss. Not that she can hear it, but the rectangular box is scary, even for somebody as mighty as I am. And now, one of your favorites, Dance the Night from Dua Lipa, says the man locked in the odd box. Then, after some rhythmic music, a woman starts to sing in the box. I inch closer, sniffing the air to make sure it wouldn't hurt me, my tail tapping away at the beat. It's only some device humans are so fond of. The human sings along, so I sneak around to discover the room. There's a huge bag of flour, eggs, and butter. Boring stuff. But I follow my nose onto the counter, and my heart beats faster. Cake! A real, deliciously frosted cake. I lick the icing, and the sugary pinkness explodes on my tongue. I moan and take a full bite of the cake, munching happily and moving along with the song. Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Watch me dance, dance the night away, I still keep the party running, not one hair out of place. Dance, dance, I hum as I stuff my face and roll in the cake. This is the best day of my life. With my eyes closed, I wiggle, lying on my back, covered in icing and cream, and lick my paws. A high-pitched scream echoes in the room, and I jump onto my feet, looking straight into the woman's eyes. Looks like I forgot to stay invisible. The icing is dripping from the tube she's holding, and I stuck my tongue out to lick it off. She screams again and hits my head with a tray. What are you? I blink as I rub my head, checking for a bump, and quickly gather myself and puff out a cloud of purple smoke. I am Aerosol, the Lord of Gluttony, I say with my best spooky voice, gazing through the purple cloud and letting my tiny teeth show. Fear me, human. She tilts her head as she steps closer. You're cute, she rubs my chin. What are you? My eyes flutter, and I lean into her touch for a moment before I shake my head and stomp. I just said it. I'm Aerosol, the Lord of Gluttony. She chuckles. Are you a demon? What do I look like to you? I raise my chin, keeping my eyes on the sweet icing dripping from the tube. Well, you look like a purple fluffy cuteness with pink ears and a tail. Are you even an adult demon? I'm older than you can imagine, I puff out my chest. I'm 2,628 minutes old. Actually, 2,650 by now. Her lips are moving, but no sound comes out of her. She's probably frightened from my age. Good, she should be. How old are you? She points at me with the tube. In years. I lick the icing. 5. Because I can't resist the raspberry-flavored deliciousness. I lick again. I'm 5 years old, okay? But that doesn't mean I can't or won't hurt you. I'm a demon. She laughs and rubs my ears. Did I summon you? Yes, and consider yourself lucky I'm not Azraxal. He's really scary and ancient. How old is Azraxal exactly? 8,000,004 in years. 16, I shrug. Why did you want to summon him anyway? She sighs and hand feeds me some marzipan flowers. My girlfriend left me, and she had the nerve to open her own confectionery business. I can deal with the heartbreak, but she stole half my clients, got a real shop, and left me with 3 dozen orders to do alone by the end of the week. She gestures at the cake I destroyed. That was supposed to be delivered today. I frown. But how does Azraxal come into the picture? I thought he could do something to destroy her cakes. I gape at her and put my paws over my heart. Destroying cakes? No, that's never an option. She sobs quietly and wipes at her eyes. If I can't deliver these orders, I need to close for good. It's impossible. So taking her down with me sounded like a good plan. But I can help, I narrow my eyes, for a price, of course. You can? Hope glitters in her teary eyes. Only if you never send me back and give me offerings 10 times a day. You mean cake? I mean sweets. Anything with sugar, cakes, creams, candy, chocolate, caramel, cookies. And how can you help me? It's easy. I look at the cake I ate and snap my fingers. A second later, it's whole again, with extra decoration that wasn't even there. I'm the Lord of Gluttony, human. Just to convince her that she'll make the best decision of her life by letting me stay, I summoned 2 more cakes. One blue with yellow and orange flowers, and one green with a rainbow and more flowers on top. And just because I liked them, I added a dozen cupcakes. With a beaming smile, she stares at my doing. My name is Rose, she smiles at me. I'll feed you as long as you wish, and in return, you help me run my business. I munch on a marzipan flower I snatched away. Deal.
I hope you enjoyed the story. And so I'm going to go for the day. Grandma Hoggett, thank you for watching and listening to the show today. I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll return again to listen to me offer a voice to what a lot of people are thinking these days. To say goodbye this week, I will leave you this quote from French General Marshal Philippe Pétain. The difficulty of supplying an army is greater than the difficulty of fighting it. Schlangelfoil.